"What's all the ruckus?" Whitney heard someone yell to the left of her position. The voice sounded like it belonged to an elderly man. The lamplight inn's other guest, she assumed. "Just get the fuck out of here, old man," Whitney silently pleaded. "Go call the cops." "I have half a mind to go get the manager and have him kick you out on your—" the man began, but didn't finish as the roaring boom of the hellbilly's shotgun ended his life. Whitney, letting out a terrified scream as she heard the shotgun, thought, "This crazy asshole is going to kill all of Blackwater just to keep us." Before Whitney could finish her thought, the hellbilly was dumping the fresh corpse of the old man into the bed of his tow truck. Blood oozed from the massive crater in his chest, courtesy of a point-blank shot from a double-barrel shotgun, and splattered on Whitney's face and chest. Having dumped the body, the hellbilly departed. Never having seen a gunshot wound in real life, Whitney was surprised and disgusted by the goriness of it. The old man's chest had been obliterated, replaced by a hole damn near the size of a basketball. Blood and gore coated the wound and soaked the man's pajama top. Pieces of bone and meat stuck out of the ragged hole as if trying to escape the dead body. Inside of the wound were pieces of lung, chewed up by the shotgun pellets. Feeling her stomach turn at the sight, Whitney looked away, not wanting to puke for a second time. Tearing her attention away from the old man, Whitney heard a thump from the other side of the truck. Looking over, she saw Dwight's badly mutilated corpse being thrown into the truck bed, followed by his severed head which bounded off the bars of the cage. "Bodies everywhere I look," Whitney thought, almost giggling as shock began to steal its way into her. In an effort to calm herself down, Whitney began to take a few deep breaths when she heard the engine of the truck roar to life. With a violent jerk that threw Whitney into the side of the cage, the truck began to move. After righting herself, she assumed they were leaving the lamplight inn, but the truck turned around in the parking lot and began backing up. Looking through the cage, Whitney saw they were reversing towards her car. With the tow truck in place, Whitney witnessed the hellbilly exit the cab and walk around until he was at the rear of the truck. He paid no attention to her, not even once looking in her direction. The hellbilly lowered the tow truck's boom crane, and with hook and chain in hand, crawled under Whitney's car, his massive frame barely able to fit. After a few minutes, in which Whitney heard him grunt a few times, the hellbilly climbed out from under the car. She could see the hook attached to the frame under her car. The hellbilly made his way back to the truck and hit a few buttons on the winch's control panel. The winch motor hummed, and the rear of Whitney's car was in the air. Wondering why he was taking her car and not the vehicles of the other people he slaughtered, Whitney braced herself against the bars of the cage as the tow truck began moving once again. As they drove out onto the highway in front of the motel, Whitney prayed a passing car, ideally a cop, would see her caged in the back of the truck. She watched as the road remained empty and the lights of Blackwater passed her by, the houses and businesses growing fewer and fewer in between. Leaving the city limits of Blackwater behind them, her hopes of another motorist seeing her and Tegan were all but dashed. Physically and mentally exhausted, Whitney let go of the bars and slid down to the bottom of the cage until she sat. A sudden and almost paralyzing tiredness stole over her. She knew the adrenaline she'd been running on since the hellbilly had forced himself into her motel room was wearing off. She was still terrified of the situation she found herself in, but the terror seemed distant, almost as if all of this were happening to someone else. She was about to close her eyes when the tow truck made a sharp left turn, once again sending her into the bars of the cage. Whitney looked around and saw they had left the highway behind. They were traveling on a muddy road surrounded by thick, dark forest on both sides. Whitney's heart sank, and her terror that seemed distant only a few seconds ago came roaring back full force as she realized that all hope of being seen by someone in another car was gone, completely. She knew that whatever plans the sick bastard in the cab of the tow truck had for her and Tegan were going to take place soon on this dark, secluded road deep in the backwoods of Texas.